Hello, everybody. This is Jenny Olson-Payton.
And I'm Dia Hepperman.
And we are episode 8 into our podcast, Crimes and Closings. Now, last time I totally messed up. So we actually have 2. If you watched the video, you can actually see I corrected it. But if you listen to the podcast, you couldn't see my amazing editing skills, which are getting better.
They were phenomenal.
They're getting better, I swear. So I have 2 well actuallys. The first is, it was not Dee Wallace. I am so sorry, Dee. It was actually Denise Crosby, who was famous for the Star Trek Next Generation. So they're probably going to be like, well, actually, I messed up again. But Star Trek The Next Generation. And then the people that I was trying to think of were Ed and Lorraine Warren, who I totally should have known. And yes, I said something about they should have called them, and I know they're both deceased. So
it makes it a little bit harder.
Makes it a little bit harder.
Long distance phone call.
Yeah, over the long distance. So those are my 2 well actually. So I apologize. Hopefully we won't have too many of them, but yeah, I definitely was just kind of shooting from my hip last week.
That's
2
okay.
weeks ago.
It was still really good.
Yeah.
That was still a really good episode. And I'm excited next week to see what ties in.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, which is interesting because I've actually found another one now, and I'm like, okay, no, I have to wait a month out for that one. So we're gonna finish that town and go from there.
Okay.
So yes. So I hear we're talking potato soup.
We are. We're going to talk about potato soup this week.
Okay.
You know, why not switch it up? We talk about real estate. We talk about crime.
We talk about tea.
We talk about tea.
We could have like an entire smorgasbord here.
Is it? You know, I'm starting to notice that most of my episodes revolve around food. I also talked about Iron Michael Lloyd and his food. There's a theme.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
So basically we need to feed her.
All the time. Have you heard that thing about I just need fed and watered and sunlight? I'm a houseplant with emotions. Yes, I'm a houseplant. Yes, we are going to talk about potato soup. You ready?
I am so ready.
All right, let's go. We are going to start off talking about Emma Stinnett.
Okay.
And
That's a mouthful.
Oh, wait till we get to
Emma Stinnett. Can you imagine? How do you spell your name? E-M-M-A. I'm not even going to try the last name.
There's 2 N's, 2 T's, 2 M's.
Couple Z's.
Yeah. We get better on the names. Okay. She was born in 1890 in Steelville, Missouri.
Oh.
And we had talked about this was a viewer recommendation.
Yep.
And it was here local in Missouri. So
yay. Yeah. Do we know? So it's on the other side of Missouri.
It is. This all takes place more on the St. Louis side.
Okay. Kansas City still better.
Oh, shots
fired. I know. Shots fired.
But St. Louis does have a free zoo.
That is, and it's a pretty cool zoo.
It is.
So
I liked it.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I like St. Louis. I really. There's no.
You can like St. Louis and still say Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City's just home.
But except for our viewers in St. Louis, we
love
St. Louis.
Yay!
We're so sorry.
Well, it's like, we picked up one of our viewers is actually in Switzerland.
I was going to say Norway. Yeah.
Norway, it is Norway. It's where the twins were from. Yeah. Very first episode. We pulled analytics not too long ago, and we're like, oh, let's hope it's not them, and they're mad at us.
But we can say, hi, Norway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because would that be a tax-deductible trip if we decided to visit Norway?
If we talked about murder.
Okay.
But we'd actually have to file taxes on crimes and closings, so.
Oh, dang.
Better
get getting ourselves into trouble with it. Does anyone from the IRS listen to this?
Yes. Or is there an accountant that can advise us?
Yes. We need a lot of help. Yes. All right, so back to Emma.
Mm-hmm.
Emma Stinnett, born in 1890 in Steelville, Missouri. The dates do vary on her birth. So if you look this up, there's a lot of, for this happening, there's a lot of conflicting evidence of, as far as dates and times and even names on some of this.
So not only do we stick this poor child with a name that you can't really spell, you also have not you. I'm attacking you, Dia.
You
actually have the audacity to not know when she was actually born.
But that's the thing. It was anywhere from the records, depending on what record it was, 1893 to 1883 to 1893.
Yeah.
But it was down to a birth announcement in a local newspaper that narrowed it down to 1890. So you'll see a big gap of age range for her.
Mhm.
And she even lied about her age, but the birth announcement is what
solidified.
Yes. So, so anyway, none of that really matters. It's not that interesting. It's interesting to me, but it's not valuable to the story. So, she was married around 19 years old to 35-year-old Charles Schwach.
My lord.
And so
they got you didn't hyphenate.
Stinnett Schwach.
And something in my eye there, DA.
And this is where she first started lying about her age. She said she was 14, which even for the time was pretty young. And
so she said she was 19, but she was lying and said she was 14.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they don't know if she was doing it just for attention or just because she couldn't help it lie. But
usually you start lying in your like late 30s.
I know. Or early 30s. But she did hear, but she was 19 years old. He was 35. He had been married previously. He did have a daughter from the previous marriage.
Who was actually probably older than our good friend Emma.
Oh, no. In this case, no, she wasn't. Okay. Together, Emma and Charles did have 4 daughters. And they think it was possibly a tumultuous marriage because Charles had been arrested early into their marriage for beating his child.
Oh, good Lord.
Which, if you're talking about the early 1900s, that had to be pretty bad for them to arrest him for that.
Sadly.
Yes. She was known as a decent mother, not great, but she was considered a great housekeeper, a great cook.
She has her priorities. Man, the house and the food. Those kids.
Well, that's the thing. She knew how to keep the husbands happy, and that's kind of where her focus lied.
Husbands, that seems like foreshadowing.
Oh, dang, I'm giving it away. No, don't look. She was great housekeeper, great cook. One of her specialties was potato soup. That will come into play later.
So you've ruined tea for me. And now you're going to ruin potato soup. Is that what you're telling me?
I am.
Okay.
I am. And then after 15 years together, her dear husband died of dysentery in 1925.
Okay. From the potato soup.
Don't give away the ending. Emma then remarried Frank Lee, and there's not a lot of information about him as far as his age, who he was.
I'm just thinking if she was on Facebook and, you have all the like maiden Emma.
So far, we're at Emma Stinnett Schwach Lee. Okay. We don't even know if Frank Lee is real. It's just coming from Emma herself, but there's nothing to substantiate that he did actually even exist at all. So we don't know what happened to him. So like the wives of Henry VIII and what is it? Divorce, beheaded, dead, divorce, beheaded.
Oh my gosh.
We don't know about him. So we kind of leave him up in the air.
Okay. So maybe Lee, maybe not.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's like, what's his first name? Frank. So what's his name? Water plant?
Yes.
She's holding a hot dog. Frank. Lee.
Yeah. And I don't know why she would lie about this either. And not even have that much to go along with the lie.
Yeah.
The whole thing is very confusing. So then we're going to move on to her possibly second or third husband. She remarried in 1931 to Frank Bremser. So now she's Stinnett Schwach Lee Bremser. Unfortunately, 4 months after getting married, he died of complications from a fall.
Okay.
It should be noted that he fell 4 feet from a ladder.
Okay. Into a vat of potato soup?
No.
Okay.
No, just fell.
Okay.
Which there can be bad falls from 4 feet.
Absolutely.
And he was 63 years old. But it seems a little questionable, especially since Emma was the one to testify about his fall and the internal injuries that he suffered. And then she very quickly had him cremated.
Always watch the cremation.
Yes. Yeah, if someone wants to get someone cremated really quick.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Red flags. So then we are to number 4. Emma remarried in 1933 to Bert Lee Roberts. Stinnett Schwach Lee Bremser Roberts.
Okay.
He died 3 months after their wedding from acute gastritis from a bad can of sardines. So now we're back to Iron Mike Malloy, who ate them every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But poor Bertley Roberts could not handle it.
Oh, Bertley.
So then Emma remarried in 1935 to William Vaughn, who lived long enough to actually divorce her 2 years after they were married.
So does she keep the last name if they're divorced?
I don't know if she did on this one.
It's okay. Few more minutes, there'll be another husband.
They were actually only together about 6 months between he left his house a month after they got married because of her, and then they kind of had that toxic back on, back off sort of thing. So they were only together about 6 months, but the divorce proceedings took a while.
Right.
After they were divorced, he cut off all contact, wouldn't have anything to do with her, was done.
Yeah.
And they think that the only reason that he even lived as long as he did was because he refused to transfer his life insurance policy to her.
Oh.
She tried to get him, according to him, she tried to get him to change it on the way back from their wedding.
Priorities.
Yes, you need to change this. And he said, no, this is for my kids. This isn't for you.
Yeah, good for him.
So he survived. Yay! But because they were divorced, Emma remarried in 1937 to Aloysius Schneider. So we are Stinnett, Schwach, Lee, Bremser, Roberts, von Schneider.
Von Schneider. I like
that. Sound very, very German. He died in 1939, so 2 years later, from some tainted food.
Okay.
That's the
See the theme here?
What?
I know. Except the poor guy that fell into the vat of potato soup.
So then Emma remarried in 1940 to a Wentzville farmer named Tony Hepperman. And she became a stepmother to Ethel, who was 14 years old.
Okay.
So this is where it ends. Emma is known as Emma Hepperman.
Okay.
So I guess she dropped
all the other names.
But if we are going to do it, we might as well finish it up. She was Emma Stinnett, Schwach, Lee, Bremser, Roberts, von Schneider, Hepperman.
It's awesome.
My parents should be a lot more proud of me, see? I haven't been married that many times.
Oh.
So anyway, Emma is married to Tony 6 weeks after the wedding. Tony's brother's wife came to drop by for a visit and found Tony violently convulsing and Emma almost in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
And so Ethel.
Oh.
Found Ethel almost in a coma. So against Emma's wishes, the wife took Ethel with her, saying, I'm going to nurse her back to health. You take care of Tony. Brought Ethel home and told Tony's brother, Stephen, hey, this is what's going on. Can you believe this? I don't understand. They had a doctor come to look at Ethel, and the doctor said, she's been poisoned.
Oh my gosh.
So they called the sheriff. The sheriff went to the house, Emma and Tony's house, and they weren't there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, also suspicious. From some mail, they thought that maybe they had fled to St. Louis, basically. So they did find them in St. Louis and questioned Tony about what had happened and if maybe Emma had made him buy life insurance and maybe she had poisoned him because it looked like poisoning for Ethel. And he responded defending her. She hadn't made him buy it. She wasn't like that. She wouldn't be like that. That wasn't
But out
her.
of the kindness of his heart, he bought the life insurance?
No, he didn't.
He didn't at all. That's awesome.
Yeah, he didn't buy any life insurance.
Okay.
What he did do at her insistence was sell off 700 acres of farmland.
Oh, man.
So not insurance, but it's still something.
Yeah.
And so Emma was arrested that day. After that. Ethel did recover after a month in the hospital and told investigators that Emma had kept serving them potato soup, even though they didn't like it, didn't want it anymore, because Emma was saying, this will make you feel better. This will make you feel better. But Ethel said,
let's take something else.
We felt worse after every time.
Chicken noodle. Give me some Campbell's.
But she was known for her great baked potato soup.
One hit wonder.
Yes. Tony did end up dying 2 nights after Emma was arrested. And because of the suspicions around his death, her 6th husband, Aloysius Schneider, was exhumed.
Okay.
And both Tony and Aloysius had staggering levels of arsenic poisoning in their bodies. And coincidentally, arsenic did match the symptoms of her dead husbands. So if we go back, Schneider and Roberts had tainted food and had the gastric issues.
Yep.
And then Schwach had the dysentery, her first husband. And then Bremser had the fall and the internal injuries.
Oh, I was going to say, I could see her coming off from the stove. She's like, come down and have this nice big bowl of soup. He trips and falls, and she's like,
don't need that anymore.
Whoops.
No, they're thinking that it wasn't the fall at all, that his internal bleeding and internal injuries were actually arsenic.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And then we don't know about Lee. So it ends with Emma was only charged with first-degree murder for Tony's death.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, she was found guilty, sentenced to life. In May of 1968, her sentence was commuted, and she died 5 months later in October.
Yeah. So her sentence was commuted, and she released for the last 6 months. So it was probably commuted because she was terminal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still in 68. She lived a pretty good long life.
She did, because she would have, in 68, she would have been 78 years old.
78, or depending on how.
Yeah, depending on what she said that day.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot. What did they say? They say that a woman's weapon is almost always poison.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing a lot of that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Never trust anything cooked by D or I. Well,
yeah, I
don't trust it anyway.
I know. I mean, there's not any poisoning, but it's still kind of sketchy.
Yeah, little sketch.
I can make a good mac and cheese.
I can make an amazing potato soup.
We're going to have a feast, a dinner sometime of everything we've talked about, except the sardines.
Yeah, no sardines.
Nothing from Mike Malloy's episode.
Yeah, my husband loves sardines. Like he'll ever randomly message me. He's like, yeah, I really want some sardines. And I'm like, no,
who says that?
My husband, obviously. I'm a little concerned. So.
Never once in my life, out of anything I've craved, I've ever been like,
I need some sardines.
Tiny fish. Yeah. Tiny canned fish.
So one of the things we're talking about doing per season is having a reaction video. Yes. And the first movie that they think we should watch, or I guess documentary that we should watch and show a reaction to, is a movie called In Plain Sight. So I'm thinking we can marry the two. We could have potato soup and some sardines, some tea.
I'm not eating the sardines though.
And then we can watch that and see the reactions.
Okay.
So, and if you haven't seen In Plain Sight, then you either need to watch it before or after you watch this episode, which will be coming up in the future.
I haven't seen it, so it will be a true reaction video.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I try to block a lot of it out. So,
and you're making me watch it.
I'm making her watch it. So yeah, if you come up with another, we're going to try to do one of those this season. So, some of the ones we've thrown around are, of course, all I can think is Joe Dirt. I don't know why I'm having a problem.
Joe Dirt. I mean, that's a little out of our
Tiger King, and then there's a couple, but those are kind of series. But we're both in the process of getting through the staircase now, which is crazy. So
it's mind numbing. Both I don't know how something can be so dull and so fantastical at the same time. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. And you haven't even gotten to the owl part yet. I mean, the owl part.
I know the owl, and I'm just waiting because I know that's there. So they're talking all these theories back and forth and how it could happen. And I'm like, I want to see who first suggests the owl. Where in the documentary did they catch someone being like, what about an owl?
Could be.
And then everybody else being like, yeah.
I'm pretty confident though. That's how I'm going to go somehow. And it's going to be,
that's more legitimate.
They're going to be like, Dia did it. And you're going to be like, it was the llama killed her.
But anybody who knows you, if I came into the room and I said, a llama just killed Jenny, they'd be like, anybody would be like, yeah, she's probably trying to help it cross the street, or it's probably lame and she was taking it to the vet.
It's a lame llama.
It looked lost and she was picking it up.
So I'm either going to die or get arrested. So depending on the day.
Well, you've already got the arrested part down.
Yeah. Swear the dog looked like it had been hit by a car.
That's a true story, folks.
I just want to thank Officer McCain for being amazing while he was supposed to be arresting me.
So yeah, nobody would doubt. Somebody could kill you and be like, a llama did it, and everybody else would be like, yeah, legit.
Yeah. So, goals.
So that's our crimes part.
Nice.
Yeah. Our closings part, we had kind of talked about this again a little bit earlier. There's been a little bit of shift on the coast with buyers and hot sellers markets maybe cooling down a little bit.
Yep. And I'm definitely seeing it I'm seeing a lot more foreclosures come on. Mm-hmm. I do something called a BPO, which is a broker price opinion for a couple different banks. And I am doing multiple a week. Mm-hmm. And basically that means they send us out first to kind of take a look at the asset to make sure everything is, good. There's no gaping holes or it's secure. But usually it's a precursor to a foreclosure or short sale. So that's usually the first indication. And then we're also seeing, homes coming back on the market. It'll be like a bidding war, and then, they get through inspections or the buyer gets cold feet, and next thing you know, the house comes back on the market. So definitely seeing that. What are you seeing as far as the best ways really for buyers to be able to still get their foot in the door?
I'm seeing really right now, it kind of comes down to, we have talked about in its present condition and some paperwork that buyers can do. But there also is just kind of practical stuff that's to us, it's, hey, don't do this. But if you're a buyer, you might not have had that conversation. Right. So while the market is kind of cooling down, at least on the coast, and it still has to make its way to us, it's still pretty hot here. So something that you want to do as a buyer is be smart about your paperwork. We've talked about in previous episodes, but also just be smart in the loan process, because getting dropped from a loan, you've just lost the house that you fought so hard to win. So it comes down to just kind of anything that affects your credit, don't do it. Yeah. If you go to the biggest one, always is Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Don't do it. Or Kohl's.
Yes, or Kohl's. Once you get that house, you start thinking new furniture, new everything, and you can spend yourself out of your loan, but you can also get really caught up when Nebraska's like, hey, do you want to open
was
this
that 5% worth losing your loan?
Yes. Don't open up new credit cards. Yep. Even store credit cards can affect your credit. Yep. No credit cards, no big purchases. This is not the time to buy a boat, to buy a car, even buy a motorcycle on interest. Right. Don't do it. Anything that has an interest rate attached to it. Yep. Don't do it. Don't quit your job.
Yeah. And God forbid, and this is one, and it was not my people's fault or these people's fault by any stretch. But one of my favorite stories, and it's my favorite story only because I always tell people to expect the unexpected. My longest short sale was 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. This was during the time in which the market was not hot. So we had 2.5 years. I believe we had 4 offers. The third offer, we finally get to the closing table. I end up calling the agent to tell them that we got the loan approved or the short sale approved, found out the agent passed away.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So very traumatic. Everybody's trying to figure everything out. The broker's taking things over. And then it takes about 2 weeks for the broker to get everything all squared away and ready to close. So we're closing Monday morning. Friday evening, I get a phone call. The buyer who had been on the hook, this was their dream house. We're talking 9 months they waited for this house. He came into work Friday afternoon and a Chinese conglomerate bought his company and he no longer had a job. So lost the loan.
Oh,
so yeah.
No.
So always expect the unexpected. That was one that I don't find any humor. The other agent was amazing. I miss him. Definitely a huge loss to the real estate community, but you just always have to expect the unexpected and expect to enroll with it. So we were able to get it, closed again, but it took another 3 months to find an offer and get everything done. But it was crazy. So, but it immediately, him losing that job, she did not have enough time it was something like she didn't have enough time in her job. Yeah. They were not able to switch any numbers around or anything like that. So
So if you lose your job, stay in the same industry because it will count.
Yeah.
You have to kind of start the loan process, but stay in the same industry.
Yeah.
Don't jump industries.
No. So
wow.
That was a good tip. So yeah. So expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
Don't eat potato soup.
Don't eat potato
Offered by
soup.
a woman you don't know how old she is.
I did. No. I can't imagine how but this is before everything was so well known, but I can't imagine how you explain away your 5th and 6th husband.
Well, and at least one of them had kids as well. So, or two
several of them.
So kids. You have all these stepkids that are kind of like, yeah, it's crazy.
It was interesting, and there was a lot more information on it, but it did start getting kind of windy. And she stayed in the same area.
Yeah.
Which was the other thing that kind of surprised me, because you would think that
she'd move around a little bit.
Yeah. And she did move with husbands.
Yeah.
But then she stayed fairly well in the St. Louis area.
That's crazy. So, all right. Well, we got next week. We already know that we're talking about another murder from New Jersey. And
it ties in with
the Watcher House. Have you been sleeping okay?
I've been sleeping fine.
Okay, good.
I wonder if the Watcher ever watched us.
Have you gotten the mail yet?
Not impressed. I almost thought about sending you a letter. I was going to Google how it was written and then send it to you, but I figured it wouldn't affect you in any way. You would look at it, laugh, and be like, "Oh, this is awesome."
Dia.
That's how I'll start the letter. This isn't Dia.
No idea who I am.
No, I'll misspell my name just so it seems more legitimate.
In the office, I've been watching 3791 Ralph Powell Road.
That's not your address.
It's my office address.
No, it's not.
It's not 3751? 51. Okay, there you go.
You just told everybody.
That's okay. I mean, it's a place of business.
It is.
On that note, we're a mess. On that note, have a great 2 weeks. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Talk to you later.
Bye.